your ACT data. And let me tell you why I say that. So you think about ACT being a sales database. Now, on one end of the spectrum, we could just be a Rolodex. And so a Rolodex, what do we have? We've got name, address, phone number, city, state, zip. And that's about it. Stuff you can get off the phone book or the web, but there's nothing to categorize or prioritize your information. And so you can do this with a multiplicity of fields, but in ACT, the most logical one to do this in is called the ID status field. And so I wanted to show you this and basically encourage you or suggest as you work through your ACT database that you think about this and how you might customize this. So remember that a salesperson, when they're calling or when somebody calls you, you've got one chance to stick your head into that company and see what's going on. And the information that you gather at that time is going to be the information that you wish you'd gathered later, and so you want to make sure that you gather the right bits of info. So let me flip over. Here's my screen right now. So this right now, this down arrow here is just the ID status. And you can see this is what's called a multi-select drop-down, meaning I can be a customer, a contractor, distributor, and a friend, so on, all these things. I can go and change the values, and so if I want to say, there's lead, I've got prospect. Let's say I don't really want to keep manufacturer, I can delete that one. And maybe I want to keep my church folks here, so I might just add one for church. A lot of folks, they'll actually come to us and they'll say, hey, I need a database for church, a database for this business, a database for that business, a database for my kid's school. And really you don't, because you can use this field to separate the database into different chunks. And so if Chris Huffman, let's just find Melissa here. So if I go look up and just type in Mel, I'm going to find Melissa Pearson, Melissa Weather. Let's say Melissa Weather is in my church group. I can just go down here and say church. And then if I want to find everybody that's in church, all I've got to do is right click, look up ID status, say contains church, click OK, and there they all are. So it's real easy to find them. And because of that, I don't have to have a different database for everything I do. So when I say buckets in terms of this, this bucket list or buckets for your data, buckets are the bits of information that you want to capture. And so, for example, you might have a bucket for industry somebody is in, industry for a bucket for product line that somebody's interested in with you. I have a bucket for relative temperature, for example, hot, warm, cold, or gold, silver, and dross. Remember, dross is that crud that floats to the top when you purify silver or gold. And so a gold might be a top-level customer, silver might be so-so, and dross is the guys that we're going to try to get off the phone with as quickly as we can. They're of no value to us. Now, I do keep those in the database, and so sometimes if they call back, I'll know them ahead of time. I had somebody call the other day, and I hadn't talked to them about 8 years, and they worked for a different company, but we knew right away where we left off, what we'd done, information about their company, who they reported to, all this stuff, because it was kept inside of ACT. So tip number one is just use or define buckets, and buckets are the questions that you wish you would ask. And that might be a custom field or some custom drop-downs, but remember that when your salespeople call or when you talk on the phone, you have one chance to get all the information or the best information that you can out of that phone call. And we use that with different fields, and I call those buckets. What we don't want to do is go in and journal about it. So people would typically open a note, and they'll just basically journal, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So that's our first tip, buckets for your ACT data.